Have you ever wondered why spending money on your phone feels more like playing a video game than making a financial decision? You open an app, tap a glowing button, and a few days later, a package arrives. The entire process is smooth and strangely satisfying. It doesn't feel like you are actually parting with your wealth. It feels like interacting with pixels on a screen. But then the end of the month rolls around, and reality hits hard. You sit down to look at your bank statement, and a familiar wave of anxiety washes over you. You see a long list of small, harmless transactions. A rideshare here, a food delivery there, an impulse buy from a targeted ad. Individually, none of them seem like a big deal, but together they have somehow drained your account. You feel a heavy sense of guilt. You promise yourself that you will budget better and track your spending. Yet, despite your best intentions, the cycle repeats. Here's what nobody tells you. You're not broken. You're not bad with money. Your brain is just operating in a digital environment it was completely unprepared for by human evolution. You are judging yourself for failing a test that was rigged against you from the beginning. The guilt you feel is misplaced because you are trying to solve a structural problem with sheer personal discipline. In the modern economy, discipline is simply no match for the billions spent engineering your behavior. To understand why this happens, we have to look back at how our brains evolved. For the vast majority of human history, trade involved tangible physical objects. Even in the recent past, when we primarily used physical cash, the act of spending involved a physical exchange. You had to count out the bills and watch your wallet get thinner. Your brain actually registered that event as a true loss. Now look at how you spend money today. The physical sensation of losing a resource has been completely eradicated. You are scrolling through a social media feed, you see a product you like, and you double tap the side of your phone. Your screen lights up, your face is scanned, and a pleasant checkmark appears accompanied by a satisfying chime. You don't feel a sense of loss. Instead, you receive an immediate engineered hit of dopamine. Research from Stanford's Graduate School of Business has shown that handing over physical cash actually activates the pain centers in your brain. It hurts to spend physical money. But digital payments bypass those neurological pain centers entirely. Tech companies understand this biological loophole perfectly. They know that if they can remove the physical pain of spending, you will spend significantly more. They have turned buying into a frictionless reflex. Every single app on your phone has been meticulously crafted by behavioral psychologists. Their primary objective is to eliminate what they call friction. Friction is anything that slows you down. It is the time it takes you to pull out your credit card or pause to consider if you actually need the item. Friction gives your logical brain time to catch up with your emotional impulses. By removing friction, these apps force you to operate purely on impulse. Willpower is a finite resource that drains heavily throughout the day. You might wake up with a full tank ready to make smart financial choices. But every decision you make at work slowly drains that tank. By the time you are lying in bed at night, exhausted and scrolling through your phone, your willpower is completely gone. And that is exactly when the dopamine buttons are most effective. Stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you will completely change how you see your everyday digital habits. We are going to rip the mask off these platforms. We are going to break down the exact psychological mechanisms they use to turn your hard-earned income into corporate profit. We are going to explore how they hijack your brain chemistry and how you can build automated friction-based systems to take your power back. The modern economy is an invisible battlefield, and you are walking onto it completely unarmed. We are constantly fed this lie that if you just budget harder or track every penny in a spreadsheet, you will suddenly become wealthy. But that advice completely ignores the biological reality of how your brain actually works. You are operating a prehistoric piece of hardware in a hyper-futuristic environment. It is not a fair fight, and it never was. Think about how our ancestors evolved over hundreds of thousands of years. Human beings are incredibly good at managing scarce physical resources. If you had 10 apples and you gave away 3, you could physically see and feel the loss. Your brain developed specific neural pathways to make you deeply protective of the things you gathered. This evolutionary survival mechanism kept our ancestors alive through harsh winters and famines. But human evolution moves incredibly slowly, while technology moves at the speed of light. Your brain simply did not evolve to understand abstractions like a digital balance on a glowing glass rectangle. When you look at your banking app, your primal brain does not register those numbers as survival resources. It just sees pixels. Tech companies realized this biological blind spot years ago, and they built trillion-dollar empires exploiting it. Behavioral economists at the University of Chicago have studied exactly how this technological shift rewires our spending habits. They discovered that the format of money fundamentally alters our emotional response to spending it. When currency becomes abstract, we lose our natural psychological defenses against overspending. The less money looks and feels like a physical object, the faster it leaves our possession. This brings us to a foundational concept in behavioral finance called loss aversion. In a natural environment, human beings feel the pain of losing something roughly twice as intensely as they feel the pleasure of gaining something equal in value. If you drop a $100 bill on the sidewalk, the frustration you feel is massive compared to the mild happiness you would feel if you found $100. This pain is a feature, not a bug. It is designed to keep you safe and protect your resources. But the entire digital economy is engineered to systematically bypass your natural loss aversion. When you hand physical cash to a cashier, your brain registers a painful loss. But when you double tap your phone to pay with a digital wallet, your brain does not register a loss at all. The interface is specifically designed to celebrate the transaction. You get a haptic vibration, a cheerful sound, and an engaging animation. The pain of spending has been surgically removed and replaced with a tiny digital party. This creates a massive amount of cognitive dissonance in our daily lives. Your logical brain looks at your credit card statement and knows you are spending too much. But your emotional brain feels perfectly fine because the act of spending never triggered any biological alarm bells. You are constantly caught in a tug of war between what you know logically and how you feel in the moment. And when logic fights emotion in a frictionless environment, emotion wins every single time. This is exactly why you have to stop blaming your lack of discipline for your financial struggles. Society loves to tell you that you are just weak or that you lack the willpower to put your phone down. But willpower is a biological resource that burns out just like a physical muscle. You are fighting against supercomputers and massive teams of neuroscientists whose entire job is to figure out how to get you to click that brightly colored purchase button. Every choice you make throughout the day slowly drains your cognitive reserves in a process psychologists call decision fatigue. You make hundreds of micro choices at your job dealing with your family and navigating traffic. Your prefrontal cortex, which handles logical reasoning and impulse control, is completely exhausted by the time evening arrives. Your brain shifts into autopilot, desperately seeking an easy source of dopamine to soothe the exhaustion. This is the exact moment the digital trap snaps shut. The apps on your phone know exactly when you are most tired and most vulnerable. They use push notifications and frictionless design to present you with a path of least resistance. You do not have to get off the couch to buy dinner or shop for new clothes. You just have to move your thumb a fraction of an inch. When decision fatigue meets a frictionless environment, your wealth does not stand a chance. Let us look closely at the very first snare that has been set for you, which we can call the one-tap trap. If you open your favorite shopping app right now, how many steps does it actually take to buy something? For most of us, the answer is literally one. Your credit card information is already saved, your shipping address is locked in, and your preference for delivery is pre-selected. The entire process takes less than 3 seconds. It feels like magic, and it feels like the ultimate modern convenience. But that convenience is not there to save you time. It is there to bypass your critical thinking. When you see a pair of shoes, you want your emotional brain immediately spikes with desire. In a physical environment, you would have to go to a store, pull out your wallet, and hand over cash. That physical journey is full of friction, and that friction gives your logical brain the exact amount of time it needs to step in and ask if you really need those shoes. By collapsing that journey into a single tap, tech companies have completely silenced your logical brain. A famous study from MIT demonstrated exactly how dangerous this decoupling of payment from product can be. Researchers ran a blind auction for highly coveted tickets to a professional basketball game. They told half the participants they had to pay with physical cash, and the other half they could pay with a credit card. The MIT study showed that the people paying with plastic were willing to bid up to 100% more for the exact same tickets. The people using a card were willing to spend twice as much money. It was not because the credit card users were wealthier, It was entirely because the format of the money changed how their brains perceived its value. This is the psychological mechanism of loss aversion being deliberately short-circuited. When you buy something with a saved digital card, you get the immediate high of acquiring the item, but the actual payment is delayed until your bill arrives weeks later. You have decoupled the joy of getting the item from the pain of paying for it. In that 3-second window, your brain completely forgets that real labor was traded for those digital dollars. You end up treating your bank balance like monopoly money. When you use one-tap checkout, your brain falls for an engineered illusion. The money does not feel real because it lacks physical weight and immediate consequence. You are just trading abstract digital points for real physical goods delivered right to your front door. The tech industry knows this, and they have optimized every single pixel to keep that illusion alive. They use calming colors and biometric scans like face identification to make the purchase feel seamless. All of these design choices serve a single purpose, which is to make parting with your money feel completely effortless and entirely painless. When you look at your bill at the end of the month and wonder how you spent so much, you have to stop beating yourself up. You did not fail because you lack discipline. You failed because you were pitted against a frictionless environment designed by behavioral psychologists. You cannot outsmart a system that is actively bypassing the logical center of your brain. If you want to take your power back, you have to realize that willpower is completely useless here. Willpower depletion is a real biological phenomenon. The only way to win is to fight systemic engineering with systemic engineering. You must deliberately reintroduce friction into your digital life. You have to make it physically annoying to spend your own money. The system fix is incredibly simple. Tonight, go into every single shopping app and digital wallet on your phone and delete your saved credit card information. Turn off the one-tap checkout features. You are going to force yourself to enter your 16-digit credit card number, the expiration date, and the security code every single time you want to buy something online. When you force yourself to walk across the room, find your wallet, and manually type in those numbers, you are manually inserting friction back into the system. That 2-minute delay is exactly what your prefrontal cortex needs to wake up and evaluate the purchase. The annoyance of typing those numbers simulates the physical pain of handing over cash. By building this friction into your environment, you are automating your financial defense. You are no longer relying on your tired brain to make good choices at night. You are relying on a structural barrier that you put in place when you were thinking clearly. This is how you begin to build wealth, by building an environment where doing the wrong thing is simply too much work. Now that we have dismantled the trap of frictionless spending, we have to look at an even more insidious mechanism hidden inside the very apps that claim to build your wealth. Over the last decade, there has been a massive shift in how ordinary people interact with the stock market and e-commerce platforms. We have been sold the lie that having a trading app in our pocket or a daily deals app sending us alerts makes us savvy and empowered. In reality, it just turns us into lab rats pressing a lever for a pellet of food. If you find yourself checking your portfolio or your favorite shopping app multiple times a day, you are caught in a perfectly engineered psychological loop. This compulsion to constantly check our phones does not come from a genuine need for financial information. Nothing meaningful happens to a long-term investment portfolio between 10 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. And yet millions of people pull out their phones, stare at the flickering red and green lines, and experience massive swings in their emotional state. They do this because tech companies have hijacked one of the most powerful psychological mechanisms ever discovered. It is a concept called a variable reward schedule, and it is the exact same mechanism used to make slot machines so deeply addictive. To understand this, we have to look at how your brain processes anticipation. The dopamine spike flatlines because the outcome is entirely predictable. But if you perform an action and the reward is completely unpredictable, sometimes you get nothing, sometimes you get a little, and sometimes you hit the jackpot, your brain loses its collective mind. Your dopamine circuitry goes into overdrive not from the reward itself, but from the intense anticipation of what the reward might be. When you open a modern investing app or a digital storefront, you are essentially pulling the lever on a digital slot machine. Will your crypto be up 20% today? Will that stock you bought be crashing? Did that flash sale finally drop the price on the item you were watching? You never know what you are going to see until the app loads. That split second of uncertainty, followed by the reveal, floods your striatum with dopamine. You are no longer investing or shopping. You are gambling with your neurochemistry. Researchers studying behavioral finance at Yale University have observed how these unpredictable financial rewards completely alter our risk profiles. Their studies demonstrate that when investing is gamified with bright colors, push notifications, and unpredictable daily updates, retail investors trade dramatically more often and take significantly worse risks. The environment strips away our rational long-term planning and replaces it with a desperate need for short-term stimulation. The platform is not a tool for wealth creation. It is an amusement park ride disguised as a financial instrument. This constant checking behavior inevitably leads to financial destruction through a psychological trap known as anchoring bias. When you look at your portfolio every single day, your brain naturally anchors to the highest number it has ever seen. If your account hits $10,000 and then the market naturally dips to $8,000, your logical brain should tell you this is normal market volatility. But your emotional brain feels like it just lost $2,000. The high water mark becomes your mental anchor, and anything below it feels like an agonizing defeat. This engineered panic is exactly what causes ordinary people to buy high and sell low. The app sends you a push notification that a stock is dropping. Your heart rate spikes because of loss aversion. The interface is designed to make selling incredibly easy and frictionless. So you panic sell to stop the emotional pain, completely locking in a permanent financial loss. You were manipulated into making a permanent financial mistake by an ecosystem designed to harvest your attention through anxiety. The exact same thing happens with shopping apps that use countdown timers and limited quantity warnings. They anchor your mind to a supposed retail price and then offer you a massive discount that disappears in 10 minutes. Your brain panics. You feel the pain of potentially losing out on the deal. The app provides a frictionless one-tap solution to relieve that anxiety. Before you even realize what has happened, you have spent $50 on something you did not even know existed 10 minutes prior. You cannot outsmart a variable reward loop using sheer discipline. When your phone buzzes in your pocket with an alert, your willpower depletion is already happening. You are actively fighting against an algorithm that has unlimited energy while your cognitive battery is constantly draining. Trying to ignore the notification or simply look at the app without acting is an exhausting exercise in futility. The house always wins when you play their game on their home turf. The system fix here is absolute structural friction. You must remove the casino from your pocket entirely. Take your phone right now and delete every single investing app, crypto tracker, and flash sale application from your home screen. Do not just move them to a folder, delete them completely. If you are a long-term investor, you do not need to check your portfolio on a Tuesday while waiting in line for a coffee. By forcing yourself to log into your brokerage account on a physical computer using a clunky web browser, you are breaking the variable reward loop. A desktop computer is boring. It does not vibrate in your pocket. It does not send you push notifications while you are eating dinner. By removing the app, you remove the dopamine trigger. You are taking the emotion out of the equation and returning your finances to the logical center of your brain. Wealth building is supposed to be incredibly boring. It is the slow, methodical, automated transfer of funds into globally diversified index funds month after month. It should not be exciting, and it should never feel like a game. By automating your investments and deleting the gamified apps, you are erecting an impenetrable wall between your emotional impulses and your financial future. You are letting the system do the heavy lifting so your brain can finally rest. Let us move to one of the most brilliant and destructive financial innovations of the modern era. If you have shopped online in the last few years, you have undoubtedly seen it. You reach the checkout page for a $200 item, and right below the total is a brightly colored button offering you a different path. It suggests that you can take the item home today for just 4 easy payments of $50. It does not look like a credit card application, and it does not feel like going into debt. It feels like a massive consumer life hack. These buy now, pay later platforms have fundamentally revolutionized how we accumulate consumer debt. They do not use the intimidating language of traditional banks. There are no heavy terms like compounding interest or revolving credit lines displayed up front. Instead, the interface uses soft pastel colors, friendly fonts, and cheerful progress bars. It looks exactly like a fitness app tracking your daily steps or a video game tracking your level progression. The platform is specifically designed to disguise a binding financial liability as a fun and manageable milestone. Behavioral economists refer to the psychological vulnerability being exploited here as mental accounting. When you look at a $200 price tag, your brain registers a significant financial barrier. That number represents a tangible chunk of your weekly paycheck. But when that exact same price is visually fractured into 4 payments of $50, your brain processes it entirely differently. Your mental accounting system miscategorizes the purchase. It suddenly groups the expense with your minor everyday purchases, like groceries or a tank of gas. A recent analysis of consumer spending habits revealed that shoppers using buy now, pay later services end up spending roughly 20% more per transaction than those paying up front. This happens because the human brain is terrible at visualizing aggregate future debt. When you agree to that first $50 payment, you are not actually buying the item. You are signing a contract that legally garnishes your future wages. But the app separates the immediate joy of receiving the product from the long-term burden of paying for it. The true genius of these platforms is how they manufacture a false sense of financial empowerment. The marketing copy tells you that splitting your payments is a smart way to manage your cash flow. They make going into debt for a pair of sneakers or a new jacket feel like a sophisticated accounting strategy. This creates massive cognitive dissonance. You feel responsible because you are managing your micro payments, but your actual net worth is steadily draining away. You are essentially renting your own lifestyle from a tech company. This illusion is held together by the gamification of the repayment process. When you make one of your bi-weekly payments, the app rewards you. A green check mark appears, a progress bar fills up slightly, and a congratulatory message pops onto the screen. This triggers a release of dopamine in your brain. You are actually being chemically rewarded for giving a massive corporation your money. The platform has turned the mundane and stressful act of servicing debt into an engaging, interactive game. The trap snaps shut when these microloans begin to stack up. Because each individual payment is so small and frictionless, it is incredibly easy to justify starting another plan. Before you realize what has happened, you have 6 different progress bars running simultaneously. Your upcoming paycheck is completely cannibalized before it even hits your bank account. You are trapped in a cycle of working simply to clear past obligations, all while the apps encourage you to open just one more line of credit. You have to understand that falling into this specific debt trap does not mean you are bad with money. You are facing off against product designers who understand behavioral psychology better than most therapists. They know exactly how to leverage willpower depletion to get you to click that button. When you are tired and stressed at the end of a long week, the promise of immediate gratification with zero immediate consequence is almost impossible to resist. Relying on personal discipline in that moment is a guaranteed path to failure. To reclaim your future income, you must dismantle the illusion of mental accounting entirely. You cannot simply promise yourself that you will only use these services for emergencies. The design of the software is too perfectly engineered to slowly erode your boundaries. The only permanent solution is to build a wall of friction between your desires and your ability to finance them. You have to actively break the gamified loop that these companies have built around your wallet. The system fix requires a radical shift in how you process online checkouts. First, you must go into your browser settings and completely block or disable any buy now, pay later extensions. Remove the temptation from your field of vision. But the deeper fix involves creating your own internal friction system. If you want a $200 item and you are tempted to split the payments, you are going to use a mandatory waiting period combined with physical cash transfer. If you cannot afford the full $200 today, you are going to open a separate free savings account. Every week, you will manually transfer $50 into that account. You are forcing yourself to experience the friction of saving and the actual passage of time. When you finally hit the $200 mark, you might find that the dopamine craving has completely passed and you do not even want the item anymore. By reintroducing time and friction, you give your logical brain the power to override the digital casino. We have explored how debt is disguised as a game, but we also have to look at how your actual cash is being aggressively devalued. There's a massive psychological difference between spending real dollars and spending digital tokens. Every major corporation on Earth has realized that if they can get you to convert your hard-earned money into their proprietary digital currency, they've already won. Think about the coffee apps, the airline miles, the video game gems, and the digital shopping vaults. They aren't offering you a loyalty program. They're trapping you in a closed economic loop. When you transfer $50 from your bank account into a corporate mobile app, something fundamental shifts in your brain. Logically, you know that you just moved money from one place to another. But emotionally, the transaction is completely finished. The pain of spending, the loss aversion we talked about earlier, happens at the exact moment of the transfer. Once that money is converted into stars or digital points inside the app, your brain no longer views it as your wealth. Researchers at Harvard Business School have studied how these secondary digital currencies warp our perception of value. Their findings are staggering. When consumers use points or digital tokens instead of raw currency, their willingness to overpay skyrockets. The researchers found that secondary currencies completely short-circuit our ability to gauge true financial cost. You lose your internal compass for what a product is actually worth because you aren't doing the math in your native currency. This is a predatory application of mental accounting. When you buy a coffee with a debit card, your brain registers a $5 loss. You subconsciously weigh that $5 against your other financial needs. But when you buy that exact same coffee using 150 digital stars, your brain registers absolutely zero financial pain. In fact, the interface is designed to make you feel like you're getting the item for free. You're exchanging abstract tokens for a physical good. The illusion is incredibly powerful. You stop looking at your purchases in terms of hours worked or energy expended. Your entire reality is filtered through the artificial economy the app has built. You don't care that the coffee is overpriced because the app just sent you a push notification saying you earned double stars today. The dopamine hit of earning the fake currency completely overrides the logical reality that you're bleeding real wealth. This psychological trap is then amplified by the gamification of social status. The apps introduce tiers like gold, platinum, and diamond. They give you colorful digital vaults and progress bars, showing how close you're to the next level. Human beings are biologically wired to seek status within their tribe. It's an evolutionary survival mechanism. The tech companies have weaponized this primal urge to keep you spending. You'll actively go out of your way to spend real money just to maintain your fake digital status. You'll buy an extra coffee you don't want, or book a more expensive flight simply to keep your platinum medallion shining on your screen. The cognitive dissonance here is profound. You feel incredibly smart and resourceful for earning a free pastry or an upgrade, completely ignoring the fact that you had to spend hundreds of unnecessary dollars to get it. You're giving these massive corporations an interest-free loan while simultaneously begging them for digital breadcrumbs. You can't outsmart a token economy by telling yourself you'll only use it strategically. Willpower depletion guarantees that eventually you'll start chasing the shiny digital objects when your cognitive defenses are low. Your brain is wired to hoard resources, and when a billion-dollar algorithm tells your brain that digital stars are a vital resource, you'll believe it. The system fix for this requires you to completely opt out of artificial digital economies. You must stop preloading your money into corporate apps. If you want a coffee, you use your debit card or cash. You pay the exact price at the exact moment of purchase. You reintroduce the friction of real-time payment and you force your brain to experience the loss aversion associated with every single transaction. By refusing to convert your money into digital tokens, you keep your mental accounting strictly grounded in reality. You automate your wealth by keeping your money in your own accounts where it serves your future instead of sitting idle in a corporate database. You don't need gold status at a coffee shop. You need absolute control over your own financial reality. We have spent all this time dissecting the psychology of the digital economy. We have looked at how tech companies hijack your dopamine system and bypass your logical brain. We have explored the exact mechanisms they use to eliminate friction and turn your smartphone into a financial trap. But understanding the psychology is only half the battle. Now we have to look at the cold hard math. Your brain is biologically incapable of comprehending exponential growth. We evolved to understand linear progression. If you walk 1 mile a day for 10 days, you have walked 10 miles. But money does not work like that. Money compounds, and the apps on your phone are weaponizing that compound effect against you. Think about the concept of an invisible financial leak. When you lose $10 to a frictionless transaction on a Tuesday night, your brain naturally assumes that you only lost $10. Your mental accounting system writes it off as a negligible expense. You tell yourself it is just the cost of convenience. But this is a massive cognitive blind spot that is actively destroying your future. Every single dollar you spend today is not just a dollar. It is the raw material of your future wealth, and you are trading it away for a temporary spike in neurochemistry. Let us look at a completely realistic everyday scenario. Think about your daily frictionless spending. Between the automatic reload on your coffee app, the streaming subscription you forgot to cancel the one-tap food delivery fee, and the buy now, pay later installment, you are easily bleeding $15 a day. $15 feels like absolutely nothing in the modern economy. It is a quick lunch or a couple of digital upgrades. Your brain does not register $15 as a threat to your survival. But we have to look at what happens when you run that $15 through the compound effect. If you take that daily frictionless spend and instead redirect it into a broadly diversified low-cost index fund, returning a historical average of 8% a year, the math becomes absolutely terrifying. The tech companies know this math, but they are banking on the fact that you do not. They know that if they can siphon off those tiny amounts every single day, they can capture the exponential growth for themselves. In just 1 year, that $15 a day adds up to roughly $5,500. That is a solid emergency fund completely evaporated by frictionless convenience. In 10 years, with compounding interest, that daily habit grows to over $80,000. But the true horror reveals itself over a longer timeline. If you keep up this frictionless spending for 30 years, that $15 daily habit will cost you nearly $680,000. I need you to let that number sink in for a moment. Nearly $700,000 lost because the checkout button was brightly colored and you did not have to get up to find your wallet. The tech companies and the digital platforms are not just extracting the cost of a sandwich from your checking account today. They are systematically stealing your retirement. They are extracting $500,000 of your future freedom, one convenient tap at a time. When you are fighting against these apps, you are not fighting for $15. You are fighting for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Every time you leave your credit card saved in a browser or agree to split a payment, you are actively transferring your future wealth to a corporate balance sheet. This brings us to the ultimate contrast between the two types of people in the modern economy. The person who relies on willpower looks at this math and feels panic. They swear they will stop using the food delivery apps and delete the shopping sites. They rely entirely on their personal discipline to change the outcome. But tomorrow they will be stressed at work, decision fatigue will set in, and their willpower depletion will inevitably lead them right back to the one-tap checkout. Discipline always fails when the environment is rigged. The person who understands behavioral finance acts entirely differently. They do not rely on promises or sheer willpower. They know that willpower is a biological resource that always runs out. Instead, they build automated systems. They recognize that if the tech companies are using automation to take their money, they must use automation to protect it. They set up an automatic transfer of $15 from their checking account to their brokerage account every single morning before they even wake up. By the time their cognitive defenses are down in the evening, that money is already gone. It is safely locked away in the market where the algorithms cannot touch it. They let the compound effect work for them instead of against them. You have to choose what kind of friction you want in your life. It is annoying to type in your 16-digit credit card number every single time you want to buy something. But it is infinitely harder to wake up at 65 years old and realize a beautifully designed smartphone app quietly drained hundreds of thousands of dollars from your net worth. We have spent this entire journey pulling back the curtain on the digital economy. You can now clearly see the one-tap traps, the gamified debt platforms, the variable reward loops, and the fake digital currencies for exactly what they are. They are not conveniences designed to make your life easier. They are highly sophisticated extraction mechanisms designed by behavioral psychologists to quietly siphon away your future wealth. But recognizing the trap is only the first phase of your financial transformation. The second phase requires a complete philosophical shift in how you view yourself and your relationship with money. The most important realization you can take away from all of this is that the immense guilt you have been carrying around about your spending habits is fundamentally misplaced. For years, society has told you that if you cannot stick to a budget, you are just weak or lazy. Financial gurus have shouted at you to just stop buying things and to have more discipline, but you now understand the neuroscience. You know that you have been forced to play a game where the rules were deliberately hidden from you and the opponent had unlimited resources. Understanding this biological and economic reality does not mean you get to be a helpless victim. It means you are finally equipped to become the architect of your own financial environment. You no longer have to waste your emotional energy trying to be a perfectly disciplined consumer inside a rigged casino. Instead, you step outside the casino entirely. You stop fighting the digital platforms on their home turf, and you start building your own structural defenses. True wealth building has absolutely nothing to do with denying yourself everything you love or living a life of miserable restriction. It is entirely about intentional friction. It is about actively making the behaviors that destroy your wealth annoying and difficult, while making the behaviors that build your wealth completely invisible and automatic. You are essentially tricking your ancient brain into doing the right thing by making the wrong thing too exhausting to pursue. You have to remember that your brain is a beautiful and incredibly efficient piece of prehistoric hardware. When you use financial automation, you are no longer fighting your biology, you are actually honoring it. By automating your savings and your investments, you are putting the heavy lifting onto a system so that your conscious mind does not have to constantly burn calories trying to make the right choice. If you look closely at the wealthiest and most successful people in the world, they do not sit around relying on sheer willpower to grow their money. They know about decision fatigue. They know about willpower depletion. They do not leave their financial future up to how they happen to feel on a random Tuesday evening. They make their good financial decisions exactly one time. They set up the automatic routing of their money and then they walk away and let the system run. You must begin to treat your digital environment like a physical fortress. When you delete those shopping apps, when you remove your saved credit card information, and when you refuse to use buy now, pay later services, you are not punishing yourself. You are engaging in a profound act of self-respect. You are looking at these billion-dollar algorithms and explicitly declaring that your future freedom is worth significantly more than a momentary spike of engineered dopamine. When you finally implement these friction-based systems, something truly incredible happens to your daily life. The constant low-level anxiety about money simply disappears. You stop dreading the end of the month, and you stop fearing your own bank statements. And ironically, you actually start to enjoy the things you do buy a lot more. Because when you manually enter your card numbers and consciously choose to spend your money, you are buying things intentionally with full cognitive awareness rather than as a reflex. True financial freedom is not just about accumulating a massive pile of money in an investment account. It is the deep peace of mind that comes from knowing you are operating on a bulletproof system. It is the quiet confidence of knowing your financial reality cannot be hacked by a clever user interface or a push notification. You have taken your power back from the screen and placed it firmly back into your own hands, where it always belonged. If this resonated with you, drop a comment below. And if you want to understand the deeper psychology behind why we do what we do with our money, hit subscribe. This is Mindcraft, where ideas become action and action becomes your future.